Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. It starts with the music. Low, pulsing beats, grinding lyrics that made my skin crawl every time they seeped through the walls of our home. Camille had been playing these tracks on repeat for the last few months. They weren't her usual taste. She preferred old jazz, classical melodies, something with a bit of soul. But these songs were trash, loud, aggressive, and dripping with innuendo. The lyrics were explicit, vulgar even. Every line was about submission, about a woman bending to the will of some alpha male. It was the kind of thing that made me glance over at her, wondering what she could possibly see in this filth. At first, I thought it was just a phase. Everyone goes through phases, right? A weird craving for something outside the norm. But when Camille started humming along, mouthing the words under her breath with that far-off look in her eyes, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The tipping point came one Friday night. We were at home, having a few drinks like we used to, trying to reignite some spark that had been dwindling for months. I caught her listening to those songs again, her face glowing under the dim light of her phone screen, headphones plugged in. "What's up with those songs, Camille?" I asked casually, hoping not to come off too confrontational. "You've been hooked on them lately." She didn't look up. "Just a new artist I found. They're catchy." Catchy? I almost scoff. They sound like garbage. All about, what, domination. It's kind of weird, don't you think? Finally, she looked at me. Her expression was cold, guarded. Maybe I like it. Maybe I like the message. That was the first real crack. Something in her voice wasn't right. It was too defensive, too sharp, like she was daring me to push further. But I let it go. I shrugged it off, convinced that I was overthinking things. A week later, I found the phone bill on the kitchen counter. Camille had forgotten to tuck it away like she usually did. My eyes skimmed over the numbers out of habit, but one stood out. A series of calls and texts to a number I didn't recognize, made late at night, long after we'd gone to bed. The same number appeared over and over again. Something inside me snapped. A chill crawled up my spine, and I felt the air around me grow thick, suffocating. I grabbed my phone and dialed the number, my hand trembling with barely controlled rage. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Deep, smooth, with that same cocky arrogance I'd heard in those cursed songs. "Who is this?" I growled into the phone, my pulse pounding in my ears. The man chuckled softly, like he knew exactly who I was. "You must be Camille's husband. She mentioned you." I froze, my heart plummeting into my stomach. This was him, the voice behind the music. The man whose voice she'd been playing on repeat for weeks, whose lyrics she had been mouthing with that faraway look. "What the hell is going on?" I demanded, gripping the phone so hard I thought it might shatter. "You're the guy from those songs, aren't you?" Another low laugh. "Smart man. I'm the singer, yeah. But I'm more than that to your wife." I didn't let him finish. I hung up, hands shaking. It all clicked into place then. Every lyric, every beat, every degrading line had been about them, Camille and this guy. This wasn't just some random artist she had taken a liking to, he was her lover, and those songs were their twisted little soundtrack. I stormed into the living room, where Camille sat on the couch, her phone still in her hand, scrolling through messages with a smirk on her face. "Who is he?" I asked, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it before. She looked up, startled at first, but then her expression shifted into something I didn't recognize. Something defiant. "You know who he is." I clenched my fists, the rage bubbling just below the surface. "You've been cheating on me with some washed-up singer." Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I could have imagined. We had been married for 7 years. 7 years of memories, of love, of building a life together. And now, it all felt like a lie. You were never going to tell me, were you? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. No, she said simply. I didn't think you'd find out. Her nonchalance, her complete lack of remorse, broke something inside me. Camille wasn't the woman I thought I'd married. She had become a stranger, someone capable of hiding this affair in plain sight and feeding me lies while blasting the soundtrack to her infidelity through our home. You'll regret this, I said, my voice steady but filled with venom. You're going to regret ever betraying me. She raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. What are you going to do? Leave me? That's too predictable. But I wasn't going to just leave her. Not yet. Camille had ruined our life together, and I was going to ruin hers in return. Divorce would come, but not before I dismantled everything she held dear, her reputation, her lover, her future. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I walked out of the room, the weight of my revenge plan already taking shape in my mind. Camille thought she could cheat on me and walk away unscathed, but I was about to show her just how wrong she was. The days after that confrontation were quiet, too quiet. Camille and I moved around the house like two strangers caught in the same space, not speaking unless absolutely necessary. Every interaction felt forced, cold, as if the foundation of our marriage had been stripped away, leaving only resentment in its place. But I wasn't about to let her win, not like this. I spent most of my time at the office, throwing myself into work while my mind churned with ideas. I needed a plan, something that would destroy her little fantasy world while ensuring she didn't walk away unscathed. Divorce wasn't enough, not yet. She needed to feel what it was like to have her life crumble under her feet, to lose everything she thought she could get away with. One night, about a week after I'd discovered her affair, I returned home late. Camille was sitting in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone, pretending everything was normal. She didn't even look up as I walked past her and into the living room. The silence between us had grown thick, suffocating. But I wasn't here to talk, not yet. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the contacts until I found the one I needed, Brad, my attorney and longtime friend. I hit dial and waited. Hey, man, it's late. Everything all right? Brad's voice came through the line, groggy but concerned. I need your help, I said, lowering my voice so Camille wouldn't overhear. It's about Camille. She's been cheating on me. There was a pause on the other end. Damn, I'm sorry to hear that. What do you need from me? I need to get ahead of this. I don't just want a divorce, Brad. I want to take everything. I want to ruin her life like she's ruined mine. Brad sighed. All right, but you need to be smart about this. We'll need evidence, something solid. Have you confronted her? I have, I said. But she's not going to make this easy. She's smug, thinks I'll just walk away and leave her to carry on with her little affair. Then we hit her where it hurts, Brad replied, his tone shifting to something more serious. Start with her finances. If she's cheating on you, there's a good chance she's being reckless elsewhere. And we'll need proof of the affair. Do you know who the guy is? Yeah, I said bitterly. He's some two-bit singer. The songs she's been listening to. They're about them. That's good, Brad said. We can use that. But I'll need more, texts, pictures, anything you can get your hands on. The more evidence, the better your chances of walking away with everything. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I'll get what you need. Just tell me where to start. Keep an eye on her phone, her emails. If she's sloppy enough to let you catch wind of the affair, she might be careless with her communications. And hire a private investigator. They'll get you the hard proof you need. I ended the call, feeling a surge of adrenaline. This was the first step in dismantling everything Camille had built behind my back. She had no idea what was coming. The next day, I acted normal, well, as normal as I could manage. I went about my morning routine, ate breakfast, and left for work. But instead of heading to the office, I met with the private investigator Brad had recommended. His name was Marcus, a no-nonsense guy with sharp eyes and a knack for uncovering dirty secrets. "I need you to tail my wife," I said bluntly. "She's having an affair, and I need proof. I want every text, every meeting, every detail. Whatever you find, I want it." Marcus nodded. "I'll start today. I'll send you updates as I go, but it might take a few days to get everything." "Fine," I said. "Just don't let her see you. She's careful." With Marcus on the case, I felt like I finally had the upper hand. Camille was going to slip up sooner or later, and when she did, I'd be ready. That evening, when I returned home, Camille was in the shower. I could hear the sound of water running through the walls. I stood in the hallway for a moment, listening, before making my way into our bedroom. Her phone was lying on the nightstand, unlocked. I don't know why she was being so careless, but I wasn't going to waste the opportunity. I picked it up, scrolling through her messages. Most of them were innocuous, texts to friends, co-workers, and me, but then I found what I was looking for. A long thread of texts to the same number I'd seen on the phone bill. His number. The messages made my blood boil. They were explicit, filled with inside jokes and talk of their time together. She mentioned their meetings, nights in hotels, even the inspiration for those filthy songs. "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe. My husband's working late again. It's like he doesn't even know I'm gone half the time, lol." I clenched my teeth, my grip tightening on the phone. The arrogance, the way she laughed about my ignorance, it was too much. I took screenshots of everything, sending them to myself before carefully putting her phone back in its place. She would never know I had been there. The next day, Marcus texted me an update. He'd followed Camille after she left work, tailing her to a hotel downtown. She had met her lover there, the man whose voice I'd grown to hate. The singer. They were holed up in a suite for hours. Marcus sent me pictures of them entering the hotel together, arms wrapped around each other like they didn't have a care in the world. The proof I needed was right there in my hand. I forwarded everything to Brad, along with the screenshots from Camille's phone. It was only a matter of time now. She thought she had control, that she could keep living this double life. But I was about to rip it all away from her. That evening, I came home earlier than usual. Camille was in the kitchen, cooking dinner, humming one of those cursed songs under her breath. She didn't even flinch when I walked in. I sat down at the table, watching her for a moment, the weight of everything I knew pressing down on me. "How was work?" she asked, her tone light, as if nothing had changed. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I let the silence stretch, the tension building between us. Finally, I spoke, my voice low. "You think I'm a fool, don't you?" She paused, her back still to me. "What are you talking about?" I stood, walking toward her slowly. "I know about the hotel. I know about him." Camille froze, her hands gripping the edge of the counter. For a moment, she didn't move, didn't speak, and I could almost feel the panic radiating off her. She turned to face me, her expression blank. "What are you going to do?" she asked, her voice trembling for the first time. I smiled, cold and sharp. "You'll see." The tension between us had reached a boiling point. After that night in the kitchen, when I dropped the bomb that I knew about her affair, Camille had grown more distant, but also more careful. She wasn't the same careless woman who left her phone unlocked or thought I was too oblivious to notice her late-night texts. Now, she was on edge, her every move calculated. But it was too late. She had already given me everything I needed. I wait a few days before making my next move, letting her stew in the discomfort of knowing that I had the upper hand. She tries to act normal, but the cracks are showing. She spends more time out of the house, saying she's meeting with friends or staying late at work, but I know better. Marcus has been keeping tabs on her, and every lie she tells is documented, another nail in the coffin. Tonight, though, things are different. Camille is sitting across from me at the dinner table, her eyes darting up to meet mine every now and then before quickly flicking away. I can see the fear in them, the uncertainty. She's waiting for the other shoe to drop, for me to make my move, and it's driving her mad. I take a bite of my food, chewing slowly, enjoying the silence that has become our routine. She's barely touched her plate, her fork scraping absent-mindedly at the edges of her meal. "You're not eating," I say, my voice calm, almost casual. She shrugs, trying to act uninterested. "Not that hungry." "You're usually starving after work," I press, watching her squirm. "Long day." Camille shifts in her seat, her fingers tightening around her fork. "Yeah. Just tired, I guess." I lean back in my chair, folding my arms across my chest as I study her. She's trying so hard to keep it together, to pretend that everything is fine, but I can see the cracks widening. Her perfect little world is about to come crashing down, and she knows it. "Where were you last night?" I ask suddenly, my tone sharp. The question hangs in the air between us, heavy and loaded. Her eyes widen for just a fraction of a second before she catches herself. "I told you. I went out with some friends after work. We had a couple of drinks." I nod slowly, keeping my gaze locked on hers. "Funny, because Marcus told me something different." Her face pales at the mention of his name. She knows exactly who Marcus is, and she knows what that means. "Who the hell is Marcus?" she snaps, trying to regain some control, but her voice trembles, betraying her. I smile, enjoying the way she squirms. "Private investigator. I hired him a few weeks ago. He's been following you. Got some nice pictures of you and your lover walking into that hotel together." Camille's fork clatters onto her plate, her hands trembling as she stares at me, wide-eyed. She knows she's caught. There's no wriggling out of this one. "You," she stammers, her voice barely above a whisper. "You had me followed." "What did you expect, Camille?" I lean forward, my voice cold. "You've been cheating on me for months. Did you think I wouldn't find out? You've been parading around with that singer like I'm some kind of idiot." Her lips press into a thin line, her eyes darting around the room as if she's searching for a way out. But there is none. "So, what now?" she asks, her voice barely steady. "You're going to divorce me? Take half of everything?" I shake my head slowly. "Oh, no. I'm not just going to divorce you, Camille. I'm going to destroy you." Her eyes narrow, but I can see the fear still flickering behind them. She doesn't know what's coming, and that's exactly how I want it. "You think you can ruin me?" she spits, her bravado returning. "You can't take everything from me. We built this life together. You need me just as much as I need you." I laugh bitterly. "That's where you're wrong. You've already lost. I've got everything I need, proof of your affair, documentation of how you've been siphoning money out of our joint account to fund your little hotel escapades, and even proof that you've been hiding assets in a separate account." Camille's face goes white, and I know I've hit the mark. She didn't think I knew about that. She had been planning her escape long before I caught wind of her affair, slowly siphoning away money, setting herself up for a cushy life once she left me. But now, all of that is about to go up in flames. "I'm going to make sure you walk away with nothing," I say, my voice calm but full of venom. You'll be lucky if you can even afford to keep your pathetic little lover once I'm done with you. She stands up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. You're insane, she hisses. You're not going to get away with this. I rise to my feet as well, my gaze never leaving hers. Watch me. The next day, I put the final pieces of my plan into motion. Brad had already started drafting the divorce papers, and with all the evidence we'd collected, I was in a prime position to take everything, our house, the assets, everything. Camille's separate account was going to be exposed, and there was no way she'd walk away with more than the clothes on her back. I walk into the bank that afternoon, meeting with the branch manager. Thanks to Marcus, we had records of every transfer Camille had made to her hidden account, and with the documentation Brad provided, it was only a matter of time before we froze it. I need to freeze this account, I tell the manager, sliding the documents across the desk. It was opened fraudulently. The manager looks over the papers, his eyes widening as he reads through them. We'll take care of it immediately, Mr. Reynolds. I nod, satisfied. That was the final nail in the coffin. Camille had no idea her little stash was about to disappear. By the time she found out, it would be too late. That evening, I come home to find Camille sitting on the couch, staring at her phone, her face pale. She looks up at me as I walk in, and I can see the panic in her eyes. What did you do? She whispers, her voice shaking. I smile coldly. You'll find out soon enough. She stands, rushing toward me, her hands trembling. You froze my account, didn't you? You took everything. I don't flinch, meeting her gaze with icy calm. I told you, Camille. I'm going to ruin you. You took everything from me the moment you started this affair. Now, I'm just returning the favor. She lets out a strangled sound, her face crumpling as the reality of her situation sinks in. She's lost. Everything she's worked to hide, to protect, is gone. And there's nothing she can do to stop it. I'll fight you, she says, her voice desperate. I'll take you to court. You won't get away with this. I shake my head. You won't win, Camille. Not with the evidence I have. You've lost. She stares at me, her chest heaving as she tries to contain her anger, her fear. But it's over. There's no fight left in her. Not anymore. I hate you, she spits, tears welling in her eyes. I feel nothing. No sympathy, no guilt. Just cold satisfaction. Good, I say, turning away from her. That makes this easier. And with that, I walk out of the room, leaving her to stew in the ruins of the life she thought she could control. The house is eerily silent, the kind of silence that sinks into your bones, cold and heavy. It's the calm before the storm, and I know it. Camille sits across from me at the dining table, her eyes red from days of crying, her face pale and drawn. She's stopped trying to talk to me, stopped pretending that there's anything left to salvage. We haven't spoken much since that night, but I can feel the tension between us building. She knows something's coming. She can see it in the way I watch her, the way I smile, cold and cruel, as if I'm savoring the moment before I finally break her. And today, it's time. I've been waiting for the right moment, the perfect time to deliver the final blow, and now everything is in place. The divorce papers have been drawn up, the account is frozen, and Camille's lover is about to find himself at the center of a very public scandal. But before all of that, I have one last card to play. I lean back in my chair, watching her across the table. How's your lover doing, Camille? I ask casually, knowing full well the answer. Her eyes flicker with anger, but she doesn't respond. She's been trying to ignore the fact that her perfect little affair has turned into a nightmare. It's all falling apart, and she knows it. I smile. I bet he's feeling the heat right about now. What with the press sniffing around, looking for dirt. I wonder how long it'll take for his fans to turn on him once they find out about his affair with a married woman. Her eyes snap up to meet mine, fury flashing in them. What did you do? I shrug, feigning innocence. Just a little call to a few journalists. You'd be surprised how eager they are to dig up dirt on a rising star. And when they find out that the songs he's been writing are about his affair with you, well, I'm sure that'll make for some juicy headlines. She stands up, her chair scraping against the floor as she glares at me. You bastard. I laugh, standing up to face her. What did you expect, Camille? You betrayed me. You lied, you cheated, and now you're paying the price. You didn't think you could just walk away from this, did you? She clenches her fists, her body trembling with rage. I made a mistake, okay? I was going to end it. But you're just as cruel as he is. Oh, I'm worse, I say, stepping closer to her, my voice low and menacing. And you haven't even seen the worst of it yet. She steps back, fear flashing in her eyes. What are you talking about? I pull my phone out of my pocket, scrolling through the messages until I find the one I'm looking for. The message that seals her fate. I hold the phone out to her, letting her read the text I'd sent to her lover earlier that day. Meet me tonight at the cabin. We need to talk. It's urgent. Camille's face drains of color as she realizes what I've done. She looks up at me, panic setting in. You texted him. What are you planning? I smile, cold and ruthless. Oh, I just thought it was time we all had a little chat. You, me, and him. At the cabin. You remember the cabin, don't you? The one where we used to go on weekends, before you decided to screw around behind my back. Her breath catches in her throat, and I can see the terror in her eyes now. She knows there's no way out of this. She knows I'm capable of anything. You're insane, she whispers, backing away from me. You can't do this. I can, and I will, I say, my voice cold and final. And you're coming with me. I grab her by the arm, dragging her toward the door. She struggles against me, but I'm stronger, fueled by the rage that has been building inside me for months. I throw her into the passenger seat of my car, slamming the door shut before climbing in behind the wheel. We drive in silence, the tension thick in the air. Camille doesn't say a word, but I can see the fear etched into her face. She knows there's no escaping this. We arrive at the cabin just as the sun is setting, casting long shadows across the dirt road. I park the car and pull her out, dragging her toward the door. Inside, it's dark and cold, the air thick with the smell of damp wood. It's been months since we've been here, but nothing has changed. It's the perfect place for what comes next. I push her inside, slamming the door behind us. She stumbles forward, catching herself on the edge of the table, her breathing ragged. He's on his way, I say, my voice calm. He'll be here any minute now. And then we can all have a little chat. She turns to face me, her eyes wide with fear. What are you going to do? I smile, pulling a chair out from the table and sitting down. I'm just going to watch. Watch as everything you've built comes crashing down around you. Minutes tick by, each one feeling like an eternity. The sound of tires crunching on gravel pulls her attention, and she whips her head toward the door. The cabin is isolated, miles away from anyone, and the only sound is the low rumble of a car pulling up. Looks like our guest has arrived, I say, standing up and moving toward the door. Camille's breathing quickens, her eyes darting between me and the door as panic grips her. I open the door and step outside, greeting her lover with a cold smile. He steps out of his car, looking confused and wary. What's going on? He asks, glancing around as if sensing the danger in the air. Oh, nothing much, I reply smoothly. Just thought it was time for a little reunion. Before he can react, I grab him by the collar, pulling him inside the cabin. Camille lets out a gasp as he stumbles forward, landing hard on the floor. "What the hell is this?" he growls, scrambling to his feet. "This," I say, locking the door behind us, "is the end of your little affair. The end of everything." He looks between me and Camille, realization dawning on his face. "You set us up." I smile, cold and unforgiving. "Of course I did. Did you really think you could waltz into my life, destroy my marriage, and walk away without consequences?" He takes a step toward me, his fists clenched, but I don't flinch. "I'm ready for this. I've been ready for this for months." "Go ahead," I say, my voice low and deadly. "Take a swing. But it won't change what's about to happen." He hesitates, his eyes flicking to Camille. She's standing frozen, her eyes wide with fear as she watches the scene unfold. "I should have seen this coming," he mutters under his breath, shaking his head. "Too late now," I say, stepping forward. "You're both going to pay for what you did." Before either of them can react, I pull out the pistol I'd hidden in my jacket, the weight of it cold and comforting in my hand. Camille lets out a strangled cry, backing away from me, while her lover goes pale. "You're insane," he whispers, his voice shaking. "Maybe," I reply, raising the gun. "But I'm also the one with nothing left to lose." Camille collapses to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably as I take aim, but I don't pull the trigger. Not yet. Instead, I smile, cold, triumphant. "I'm not going to kill you," I say, my voice barely above a whisper. "But I am going to ruin you both. And I'll make sure you live with this nightmare for the rest of your lives." I lower the gun, turning my back on them, the satisfaction of their fear and betrayal finally sinking in. This was my revenge. Cold, calculated, and merciless. As I leave the cabin, slamming the door behind me, I know one thing for certain: Camille and I will never cross paths again. And I'm fine with that.